Welcome back to another episode of UFC Casuals. I'm Bobby, along with my co-host Andrew, and today we have a lot to get into. We're talking about UFC 293, upcoming this Saturday, of course. We're looking back at UFC Paris, talk about what we could hear at the press conference that's just about 7 hours away right now. It's taking place way deep into the night for us in the United States, so we probably won't be able to watch it live, but there will be a lot that's going to happen, and some fight night announcements as well. A lot to talk about this episode. We won't waste any time. We'll get straight into UFC 293, talking just about the fights for now. Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland in the main event for the middleweight belt. I don't have a lot to say about this one other than the fact that Adesanya's probably just going to pick him apart on the feet. I don't see Strickland wrestling him. He says he should, but he won't. That was Strickland's words. And that's how he fights. That's how he approaches every fight. He doesn't really think methodically. He just kind of goes out there and throws. So what do you make of this one?
He kind of just goes out there on vibes alone, right? Like, you know, just whatever he's feeling. If he wants to wrestle that night, maybe he'll wrestle. But we know what he loves to do in this, throw that jab out and, you know, just box you really and try and knock you out. He loves, and he likes taking them too. He loves being a punching bag himself. He's just a freak. Sean Strickland, coming off some wins here. Obviously, he lost to what's that fucker's name? Cannonier. So, but people said that was a robbery, kind of. So, he's coming off, let's say, some wins here, right? I'm not gonna say he deserves it by any means, but it's fresh blood for Izzy. So, that makes sense. Obviously, Dricus was the fight here. Everybody, and it just made sense after beating Rob a couple pay-per-views ago. It just made sense. But those two cards being so quick apart, and Dricus picking up an injury in his fight, he couldn't, people are calling him a pussy for not taking this. No. The guy's injured, and it was, 2 months ago? So let's cut the guy some slack on that part, and, let's see what Sean Strickland can give Izzy. I don't know.
It would have already been a quick turnaround for Dricus, but on top of the injury, I mean, he wouldn't have had a full camp or anything. It would have been that would have made no sense for him, so why not wait for that title shot, especially after beating Rob? I mean, he's guaranteed that shot at some point, so it makes sense to not rush it. But with this fight in particular, I don't see many paths to victory for Strickland. I think it's going to go similar to the Pereira fight. I don't think he's going to get knocked out in round one, out cold like he did against Pereira. I think he's going to be a little bit more patient, as we have seen him in the past with the belt. But I think Strickland's going to go out there and do his usual. He's going to keep his hands around chest level with his hands out facing Izzy, and just walk into some nasty shots. I see it playing out similarly. I got Izzy getting it done in round two, though. Not a out cold knockout, but I think he knocks him down and lands some ground and pound shots.
And Strickland just has such weird movement. I mean, it seems like he's just going to be so prone to everything that Izzy's so good at in the striking department, whether it's leg kicks, whether he just picks him apart at range because he is the bigger guy here. So, I don't see a path either unless he wants to go out there and grapple, which you already mentioned. He said, is he going to go out there and do it, even though he should? Would he even have success in the grappling department? We know how good Izzy's takedown defense is. Everywhere where you say to yourself, what's Strickland good at? What could he do in this fight? Izzy's better.
Yeah.
So, maybe he gets his back and pulls off a crazy sub. Maybe Izzy just is overlooking Sean. He's worried too much about Dricus in the future, and he doesn't, have good focus on this fight and loses. I'm just trying to convince myself, but I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. Sean doesn't have that power either. He doesn't have that flash knockout power that even in very one-sided fights on paper, you're like, okay, this guy has a puncher's chance. I mean, we saw when we were previewing Aljo and Sean. We thought Aljo would go out there and dominate him with grappling, but we were always like, Sean has that puncher's chance if he can find an opening. The problem is Strickland doesn't have that because he doesn't have power. You saw, I mean, he got that TKO win over Abus, but it was just because of a flurry of punches. He made him quit. And Izzy's not going to tire out like Abus did. And he's not going to take the shots that Abus did because he's a smarter fighter than that. I don't see a path to victory, and I don't see it being a fluke knockout even if he finds an opening.
Yeah, Izzy's fought plenty of guys with power, much more power than Strickland had in this division, whether it be Cannonier, Pereira, Yoel Romero years ago, even though they didn't throw any strikes,
Yeah.
or Paulo Costa, just
Yeah.
big middleweights, right? Guys with a lot more power than Sean Strickland's. Not the biggest middleweight compared to a lot of these guys as he's fought. So there's no like physical it's things that Izzy's never seen before from a middleweight. So it's just gonna be super tough for Strickland. I don't, he's a crazy guy, and we're gonna talk about it later. But there's a chance with the mental aspect in this fight. You never know. He could, make Izzy emotional. But other than that, what is a weakness for Izzy in this fight that he can't exploit and just dominate? So.
Yeah, it's hard to see that. I got round 2 TKO for the champ. What do you got?
I think Izzy's going to go out there and make some quick work of it. He's going to want to get back to his dog at his house and have some fun with the dog. He's going to make it a quick night. Round 1 TKO. He's right there at home in Australia.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a long trip back home.
Not a long trip back home to the little pooch. So round 1, I don't think he knocks him out cold. But I think it could go pretty similar to the Pereira, where it's just Strickland just horrible stance, going to get leg kicked early, and then the guard's going to go down, and he's going to get chinned badly. Round 1 TKO.
I see it. The co-main event, Tai Tuivasa versus Volkov. Very weak co-main event. I know there wasn't a lot they could put together for this card. They probably would have liked to have Volk on this card, given he's from Australia, but he was injured, couldn't make that. And plus, if he was gonna fight around this time frame, it would have been against Islam in Abu Dhabi. So, and then obviously Kai Kara-France pulling out. We'll talk about that fight.
Robert Whittaker
replaced him. Yeah, Robert Whittaker not being able to make it. It's a bad card. Let's be honest. It's a bad card. This is a bad co-main event. But what all could they have done? So I guess we'll talk about what we got here with Tuivasa and Volkov. Tai has that knockout power. We've seen it. He's one of those big boys at heavyweight who can get those flash knockouts. Man, he's on a 2-fight skid, coming off some bad losses where he took a lot of damage against Cyril Gane. Got put out of there in round 1 by Pavlovich. It's tough, and now he's got another tough test in Volkov on Saturday.
Which, to be fair, you're talking about 2 of the best strikers piecing him apart there in the heavyweight division, and 2 of the most powerful guys, right? So, no shame. And, and he came back way too quick against such a heavy hitter in Pavlovich.
Yeah.
It was good he's gotten some time off here. Volkov, though, he's a good fighter. And, I like Tai, and I think, there's always a threat of the knockout. But with Volkov, you know what you're getting, a long heavyweight who, is a pretty durable guy, even though he is prone to getting knocked out himself. It's still heavyweights, right? So I'm not saying, Tai can't go out there and chin him bad and knock him out like he's been knocked out before. But I just think with the length of Volkov and Tai just not being as technically gifted as Volkov, I think, the front kicks to the body or the body kicks, just using that range is going to be huge in this fight. Tai doesn't have grappling, right? So you can't expect, that to be a big factor in this fight. I just think if Volkov wants to go out there and pick him apart on the outside, he can go do it in this fight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Volkov has a 5-inch height and reach advantage. Yeah. That's going to play out well for him. Tuivasa, I think he's got to land a big one-punch KO. I just don't see him getting it done. I think Volkov's going to keep it at his range where he wants to be comfortable at. I think he'll get it done. Volkov's a great striker. It's a really tough matchup for Tai, and I don't know why this was a fight he took. I know his options were a lot more limited considering he's coming off back-to-back losses, but Volkov's good. And Volkov, I know, losses aren't meant to be looked at as a bad thing, but his only losses in the UFC have been to some of the top competition in the heavyweight division. I mean, his only 4 losses are to Aspinall, Gane, Blades, and Derek Lewis. Those are great competitors. I don't put Tai on that level. I don't put Tai on that level. I don't see him joining that list of guys to beat Volkov. Just the height and the reach advantage is going to be too much for him, and he's a better striker technically. Give me Volkov by round 2 TKO.
Round 2, wow, okay. I don't see him getting a finish just because I don't think he's going to want to get too over aggressive against a Tai who, even though he does tend to get gassed later in fights, he's got that Derek Lewis factor to him, where even if you feel like you've walked him down and you're winning the whole fight, and Volkov can attest to this. He was winning 3-0 on Derek Lewis and then got slumped with 30 seconds left. So I think he knows the type of fight he's getting into here,
Yeah.
and it's very similar to that one. And he's not going to want to make the same mistake. So I really think with that length, those long Russian legs, he's going to throw those body kicks, and he's going to get probably a 30-27. And maybe he gets caught once in this fight, and he looks like, oh my God, he's on shaky legs.
Yeah.
But I think he's just going to be able to manage the distance, and he'll get a decision victory over Tai Tuivasa.
I like that. It's a fair prediction. Moving on to the third fight on this card, Manel Kape versus Felipe dos Santos. Dos Santos was scheduled to fight on the Contender Series, but because Kai France is not able to make this fight, they pulled him off of that real quick and threw him to Manel Kape for his debut. That's tough. That's tough. I don't have a lot to say about Dos Santos. I don't know much about him, but that is a tough debut to make.
What's the guy's name? Felipe dos Santos?
Yeah.
Whatever his name is. I don't like his chances because personally, I was picking Manel Kape to beat Kai France. Mm-hmm. And so you take him off the card and give him a Contender Series guy. I know Contender Series guys, have had success in the UFC.
Yeah.
And it's not by any means saying that this guy's horrible. We just don't know anything about him. He has never had a UFC fight. Mm-hmm. We're obviously not flyweight regional scene watchers, right? I've never watched one of his fights. I couldn't even tell you his record. Mm-hmm. But I know what Manel Kape is.
Yeah.
And Manel Kape is a crazy good striker, and I think he's going to win up. And he's had so many fights canceled. Mm-hmm. And he's going to want to go. He hasn't fought in so long, and it's not been by his own doing. And so he's going to be ready to go out there. He was ready to go on, put on a show and away territory against Kai France. I think he's just going to go out there and make a statement. And on a main card, whether it deserves to be on a main card or not, it doesn't matter. He needs to put a statement up, and I think he's going to do it in round one.
Wow. I think because it's I know. Look, Manel Kape has that knockout power. I mean, he got that flying knee knockout over Ode Osborne in round one. He got a round one knockout against Zhalgas Zhumagulov. So yeah, he's got that knockout power. I think Dos Santos will hang in there a little bit longer till round 2 or 3. But I do have Kape finishing this inside the distance by knockout. Just too tough of a test for a guy debuting. And I know flyweight, it's very open. There's not a lot of depth in that division, so Dos Santos could be really good. Who knows? They're trying to find people for that division. But this is just too tall of a task, I think, for him in his debut. I would have liked to see him on the Contender Series, but we're gonna have to see him
throw him to the wolves
on a pay-per-view against one of the best strikers at flyweight. It's a tough test.
And you never know. We could have a Diego Lopez situation here. We're on short notice. A guy with no UFC fights getting a big opportunity against a ranked guy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a moment. It's an opportunity to make a name for yourself more than he ever would have made a name for himself on the Contender Series. I know, people definitely care about the Contender Series, and it's a great pathway to the UFC. Mm-hmm. And there's been 2 champions from it. But on a pay-per-view, albeit not the best pay-per-view, but on a pay-per-view against a ranked guy to go out there and make a statement, this could be huge for him.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm rooting for Kape, but I want to see Dos Santos put on a nice performance. If he could take this to a decision, even, and not even a close decision, but if he can hang in there, have his moments in this fight, that'll be good enough. And then hell of a debut if he can.
Probably would definitely get a contract out of it too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Second fight on this card: Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane. A rematch from a fight that took place earlier this year. Ended in an eye poke. A nasty eye poke at that by Austin Lane. This is going to be a brawl, though. It's a heavyweight fight. The line for under 1.5 rounds is -225. So that should tell you that this fight is going to end very soon. Someone's going to sleep. What do you make of this one?
Well, it's always those ones that you think are going to end quickly that end up. It turns out being 2 big boys tiring out quickly. But I do hope it gets some fireworks because this card desperately needs it. The first fight was good. It started great. And then we got, I think it was 2 eye pokes. He poked him once. And then the second poked really him bad. I mean, anytime you see some blood coming out of an eye from an eye poke, something was bad. So definitely good that I hope Tafa's healed up that eye. And, we don't need a Bisping situation where a guy has one eye when he's done
faking
fighting.
it to get into fights.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Faking the eye test. But, I hope it's not. I hope he's healed well. It's 2 big boys. Does it deserve to be on a pay-per-view? I don't know. I mean, it's in Australia, so why not? Yeah. And who doesn't love heavyweights? We got 2 heavyweight fights on a main card of a pay-per-view. You don't see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get some fireworks here. Justin Tava for the home crowd, get a knockout.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that too. I'd like to see Taffa get the knockout. And he has a good chin, man. He has a good chin. He's lost 3 fights in the UFC. He's 3-3, but he's only lost 1 by knockout. All 3 of his wins have come by knockout. So he has a durable chin. He has some good kicks too, some good low kicks. I see him, winning round 1 and then late into round 1 getting that knockout. I don't think it'll go as fast as the Parker Porter fight, but I think Taffa is going to put him away late in round 1 by a knockout.
Parker Porter getting slept by both the Taffa brothers.
Yeah. We've found a way to slander him in damn near every episode. It feels like.
Whenever heavyweights get brought up, we always got to talk about Parker Porter. But Taffa, Austin Lane is a big guy. He's athletic.
Yeah. Former NFL defensive lineman.
Exactly. Jags, right? Or something? Yeah. I don't know. But who gives a fuck about the Jags? But let's go, baby. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Austin Lane's young in his MMA career here, and so there's always a chance he could break out here in this heavyweight division. I mean, they need some not stars, but just anybody who can.
Any talent outside of the top 10.
Exactly.
ASAP.
So, yeah. So maybe Austin Lane can show us something. You kind of know what Taffa is. He's just one of these Australian big boy brawlers. You always think about Mark Hunt back in the day. So you know what you're getting out of him, and we're getting some hands. And I'm gonna go Taffa round 1, probably kind of like you said. Maybe they feel each other out, and then he sleeps him late in the first round.
Yeah, I'm with that. The main event opener: Tyson Pedro versus Anton Turkalj. Wow, what a bad fight for a main card fight on a pay-per-view. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, Pedro has some experience. He's a little bit of a vet, but Turkalj 0-2 in the UFC. Granted, his first loss was to Jelton Almeida, so I can't fault him too much for that. But still, we got a guy who's 0-2. Why this is on the main card, I can't wrap my head around it. Bad fight. And this wouldn't even be main card on a fight night for me. I mean, not even close. No. This would be buried in the prelims. So how it managed to make its way onto the main card of a pay-per-view, beyond me. What do you make of this one, though?
It's because they're getting all of Izzy's boys to get him on a main card with him for a pay-per-view. They don't deserve it. They're not going to be stars like he is. Mm-hmm. But he's got, he's such a star that he can ask for it. It's the Conor McGregor treatment, right? Where Conor McGregor got all of his boys to be on the Ultimate Fighter. It's the same treatment with Izzy here. Let me get all my training partners on a pay-per-view with me, especially since Volk can't be there and Whitaker and all the other Aussies, right? So, Tyson Pedro is going to win this because Turkalj or whatever is awful, and they're giving the Aussies some layups here because they know they're not going to be stars. So we can't give them anybody too good. So let's give them a guy who's 0-2 in the UFC and hope this frog gets knocked out. I mean, Tyson Pedro's got the power to do it, so why not?
Yeah, he does. And Turkalj, he fought at heavyweight, I believe, so he does have to cut quite a bit of weight, so he might be a little bit chinny. But Pedro, he's not good either. He's not good himself. Let's keep it real. And Pedro, the only reason I'm giving him this fight is because he has that experience. He's been around the game for a lot longer than Turkalj has. So I got Pedro by a pretty convincing decision, but still, bad fight overall.
I think he finishes him probably round 2.
I didn't want to predict a finish in every fight, man.
I do. Fuck it.
If that happens, that'd be great. I don't see it. I feel like there's gonna be a dud in there. I think this card sucks on paper, but I think these fights could be entertaining. Could give us some entertaining finishes.
Plenty of brawlers for sure.
Yeah, there's not a lot on the line. I mean, there's obviously the middleweight title on the line. But the co-main event, neither one of those guys are like 1 win away or anything.
Right.
Ty's like a few wins away. Volkov maybe 1 or 2 if he wins this fight.
2,
Still not super high stakes for a co-main event. And the rest of the fights on the main card, no stakes. So yeah, now Cap possibly, but if he beats a guy who's supposed to fight in the Contender Series, I don't think that gets him too far.
He's still 2 fights away, probably still.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I'm with you on that, especially because there's a lot of guys in line at flyweight. You got Royval and you got Albazi. Granted, he shouldn't have beat Kai Kara France, but that's we won't go down that rabbit hole. I was leading a long rant.
We ate Albazi.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't even know where I began with this rant. I don't know where
this
I began.
Card sucks.
But yeah, this card sucks. It's a shit card. But who knows? There could be some entertaining finishes. I don't think this fight gives us a lot of fireworks.
Flying knees, please.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But I think this is going to be a pretty shitty fight to open up the main card, and then we might get some nice finishes, especially with the big boys.
Hope so.
Yeah. So moving on, probably the most entertaining part of this fight week, the press conference, which we are hours away from right now. Sean has a ton of ammo on Israel Adesanya that has come out in the last couple days. A lot of YouTube videos, particularly from MMA Guru. There's just so much he has on. I mean, he has obviously the China thing. Sean has not been shy of bringing that up. The dog stuff, that is bad.
The nails.
Yeah. And that stuff seems trivial at this point. I mean, he could say it, but that won't be where the focus is. If he starts going in on the dog stuff, man, it's gonna be a long night for Izzy.
It's gonna be really interesting to hear how he defends himself on some of this stuff too, because it's not just like leaked DM, like could be faked type stuff. We got stuff on video.
Yeah, direct stuff that he posted himself. That's the
accounts he follows.
Yeah,
post he's liked.
Yeah, so it's rough. Sean has a ton of ammo going into this. I think the UFC might try and shut Sean up a little bit. Tell him, look, man, I don't know what they can threaten him with, but I know they don't want him going into this just letting everything fly because Izzy's their star. I mean, Izzy's obviously McGregor's still around the sport, but Izzy's probably the biggest star right now, especially amongst the champions.
Yeah, among active fighters for sure. And
yeah, absolutely.
We saw how much Joe Rogan didn't want Sean Strickland to go on his tirades when he was on the podcast with him. So
yeah,
can we just imagine at a press conference? I don't know if Dana White's going to be there, but I got a feeling he would be telling him to shut the hell up if it starts going too far. Yeah,
they'll definitely be in his ear. There's no question about that. There's a lot he can get into, and I mean, it's hard to look past the dog stuff. I mean, I don't know if Sean's going to bring it up. He might have been told not to.
For anybody, by the way, for anybody who's unaware,
it's hard to even talk about. I don't even want to get into the details because it's really disturbing.
There's been some accusations with a few pieces of evidence that you could say are quite revealing that maybe Israel Adesanya is into bestiality.
Or at least has some type of weird role play
reason of dogs
interest.
Interest in dogs or people acting like dogs.
I don't want to take it far enough to say he does things with dogs. I doubt that's happening. I'd be very surprised to learn.
Although there is a video of
I think that was a little more playful. I don't think it was like I don't think he's getting anything too weird with dogs.
Everyone comment down below if you would spit your food into your dog's mouth. I'm curious.
I'm gonna pass on that. I've been around plenty of dogs in my life. Never had the urge to do that.
The urge.
Nor to play with their genitalia. That's for sure. Rough look for Izzy, but I think at bare minimum, I mean, he's into some weird shit. At the minimum.
Listen, we're not kink shamers either. It's just like. I'm gonna shame that.
I'll shame him for this. I mean, unless he has some like he has some irrefutable way of shooting these claims down. It's like, look, man, this is not me. If he can prove that, then I'll be back on. I'll be a fan of his. But as long as there's a notion that he's into anything related to dogs sexually, I'm out, man. I'm out. I can't do it.
He was already.
And you might have noticed when you watched the beginning of this video, we have a new intro. I don't want anything to do with being a fan of this guy if there's any chance that he is into dogs. That weirds me the fuck out.
No bestiality is accepted on this channel.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's already so much ammo to go after him for, and it was obviously, like we said, the petty stuff, right? Where
Yeah,
he's just a flamboyant character, and Sean Strickland's such a manly man, he thinks in his own right, and
yeah.
he was going to attack him for being all flamboyant and having, painted nails, and, I don't know. But this takes it to a whole nother level.
Some
And,
weird shit. Like, this is beyond all that. It's like, whoa, this guy is questionable.
right. So that's going to make the whole press conference alone. That's really all we wanted. I mean, nothing else in this press conference is going to top what Sean Strickland is going to come at this man with. We hope.
Yeah. I hope all the questions are for those two guys. I don't want to see Anton Turkalj talk. We don't want to see that. I want to see what Sean Strickland has to say. I might even wake up at 4 a.m. to tune into this. Honestly, I might. If I can't go to sleep, I might just stay up, watch it.
There's a chance we could see the downfall of Israel Adesanya tonight.
Dude, imagine the downfall of Israel Adesanya, brought to you by MMA Guru. That would be quite the development.
And nothing to do with fighting, but his personal
outside of the cage endeavors. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm excited for this press conference. That's the thing I'm most looking forward to.
This thing's gonna have like 5 million views, live concurrent viewers, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be something to watch. We'll move on from that. We'll leave that aside. We'll talk about UFC Paris. I want to give myself a little bit of the pat of the back here, a little bit of a humble brag. 3 for 3 on the predictions we made when it came to winner, method, and the round. I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I'm gonna brag about that one. Cyril Gane, round 2 TKO over Spivak. Went about as I expected. I mean, he was dominant on the feet, which we knew that would happen. If it stayed on the feet, he would be dominant. That's the case with him against just about any heavyweight. I mean, he is one of the best strikers in the world. Forget just the heavyweight division. He's one of the best strikers in the world. So, it's staying on the feet. I'm not shocked to this outcome. 110 significant strikes to 11. Didn't expect that much of a one-sided fight. But yeah, Spivak, his entries were just too slow. He looked sloppy trying to go for those takedowns, and Gane was just, his movement was too good. He was just circling the cage, picking them apart, and it just didn't allow Spivak to try and go for those takedowns either.
The body shots, man, that was the story. I mean,
broke his rib too. You could see it.
You could see it poking out. Just the hands to the body, the front kicks to the body. It didn't matter. Cyril Gane, a technical masterclass on the feet, like we all expected, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And it's not what I expected in this fight. I will admit, I was 2 for 3. You were 3 for 3. Congrats. I was just so discouraged from the John Jones performance and the Ngannou performance, for that matter. Just when he fought these guys that can get him down, Sergey Spivak could not get him down because he came out with maybe one of the worst game plans I've ever seen, trying to manage distance with Cyril Gane. In the speed of Cyril Gane, you're an idiot, Sergey Spivak. There's a reason Tom Aspinall dominated you. Cyril Gane dominated you. You're not a top 5 heavyweight. You're not as skilled as these guys. That's the thing about heavyweight, right? He can do this to all these guys with no skill. But once a heavyweight starts having skill, these are the scary guys. And John Jones has skill. Cyril Gane has skill. And he showed it Saturday night, absolutely dominating. Yeah,
no question. And look, man, if it's just a stand-up back and forth fight, I think Gane can stand with anybody in this division. No, if it stayed on the feet 100% of the time, I'd give it to him over Aspinall. I really think he'd beat Aspinall if it stayed on the feet. I'd even possibly give him a win over Pavlovich. I mean, we've seen guys, who had that big knockout power, who, even in the Tai Tuivasa fight, he knocked Gane down. Gane, was able to
throw off his chin.
Yeah, he was able to recover pretty quickly, kind of wrap up around Tai, slowly climb his way back up, pull apart, and then just pick him apart. I mean, look, if Gane can circle around, avoid Pavlovich's big shots, I could see him possibly beating him.
He could beat John Jones if it stayed standing. I mean,
yeah, if it did. The problem is his takedown defense isn't anywhere near good enough to stop a John Jones takedown. So.
And would it be good enough to stop a Tom Aspinall takedown? So
that's the question. I think if it was just a stand-up fight, I think he would beat Aspinall. But when you have the threat of the wrestling, not even just the wrestling, but the threat of it too. When you have to worry about the takedown, that causes a whole another world of problems. So that versatility that Aspinall has, I'd give him the win in a prediction over Gane. But if we're just talking about stand-up exchanges, I'd give it to Gane.
I'd give it to Gane over any heavyweight in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't have the power of these one-punch knockout artists, but like you mentioned, Tai Tuivasa landed the cleanest right hand you'll ever see. And sure, he went down badly, but he showed off the chin. He recovered.
Yeah.
And how many people can eat that shot from Tai Tuivasa and not go to sleep?
Yeah. Then he went 5 rounds with Francis Ngannou too, and I know he lost that fight. Very close decision. Very close.
He made Francis Ngannou a wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
he made Francis Ngannou have to just lay on him for the end of the fight.
Albeit Ngannou with no ACLs, but
fair.
But
that doesn't take away the power that he has. I know he can't really, turn into those punches probably as much. It probably affects his movements. But that's, going 5 rounds with Ngannou and losing a razor close decision, that's impressive. He has a great chin.
And Gane saying he wants to fight up here. I mean, you're not getting the John Jones fight next. Obviously, John Jones might be retiring here in November anyways.
Yeah.
And so if you're fighting up from here, he mentioned Sergey Pavlovich. He didn't mention Tom Aspinall. He acknowledged that he exists, but kind of said, I don't want to fight him. Yeah. Then who are you going to fight? I mean,
I guess it would just be Pavlovich. But I think if he waits and if Gane or if John Jones retires, if he puts the belt down and retires in November, it's gonna be Aspinall versus Pavlovich. So if I'm Gane, I'm working to get a fight between one of those two, and then the next fight after that would be for the belt.
Especially since Aspinall already beat Sergey Spivak, right?
Yeah,
and that's when. Yeah, so Aspinall, I'm not gonna say he deserves the title, but he deserves whoever's right there. Especially if John Jones retires, he's getting that, not interim. What's it called?
Vacant belt.
Vacant belt, right? Yeah. So I think Gane either he steps up and fights Aspinall here, and Sergey waits, especially since he's the backup, right? He's weighing in November anyway, so he's down to wait, I'm sure. If John Jones, make this fight with Gane and Aspinall, because that's the best fight you can make at heavyweight right now. They're the two fastest, twitchiest. I mean, man, their speed is unreal for that division, and they're still big guys. It's not even like they're super small heavyweights like a Stipe, right? Where he's
Gane is huge. Gane looks huge out there. I mean, he's 250, but and I know he's not at that 265 limit, but he looks giant compared to everybody else.
And there's that fast. It's the fight to make. I know, we said, he's got to get his wrestling tested eventually if he wants to be the champ anyway. So that's the fight to make. Please, I want to see it.
I'd love it. Moving on to the co-main of UFC Paris. Manon Fiorot wins by decision over Rose Namajunas. I think Fiorot took round 1 and 2. Rose looked good in round 3. I'd give her that one. And she went through this fight with a nasty broken finger too. So hats off to Rose. I don't want to say impressed me because she still, didn't come out of there with a win, but she looked good. She looked better than I expected, to say the least.
And I could tell at times during this fight, she just was the smaller fighter. She was fighting up in weight. I mean, Fiorot's 5'7", Rose is like 5'3", right? I mean, you could tell. She just looked like a bigger woman. So, Fiorot looked strong. And, yes, she did lose that third round, I'd say, right when you agree to Rose, probably. But there was that nasty headbutt there at the end of round 2. And so how much of that affect Fiorot? It made it look a lot bloodier than the fight would have been because there wasn't any crazy shots being landed outside of that massive headbutt. But Fiorot just looks like the stronger woman, and that's why she got this decision victory. And, what does this mean for the title picture at this weight class? I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah.
You mentioned that cut from the headbutt. If you started tuning in just from round 3 on, you would think Rose won a 30-27.
Right, dominate.
Might even had a 10-8 in there. But no, that cut from the headbutt was nasty, and that might have affected her going into round 3. Who knows?
Awesome.
But like I mentioned, Rose had that really nasty broken finger, so they were both fighting through some shit. And Rose came out winning round 3. But overall, Fiorot, no question, won round 1 and 2. So I'm fine with her winning by decision. It wasn't, I don't think, a convincing enough win or flashy enough win to warrant her getting a title shot over Erin Blanchfield next. We were saying this after the Blanchfield fight because it didn't look that great against Talia Santos either. I mean, she looked. There were some moments where she looked like she lost round 1. Obviously, right. She was close to losing round 2, but she ended up winning 29-28 decision, fairly so. But we were both saying, if Fiorot goes out there and puts on a dominant performance against Rose next week, Fiora's getting that title shot next. She's taking it from Blanchfield. But they had a very similar performance. They both won 2-1. I think Blanchfield just beat a more quality opponent. I know Rose is a huge name, former champ. Not to discredit her or anything, but Talia Santos took it to Shevchenko, lost a very close decision to her. And overall, in that division, a much tougher fight. I mean, she's so much bigger.
Yeah, I think, maybe with Fior and Blanchfield in this situation, because they, sure, Blanchfield went out there and got a more impressive win, but their performances were a little disheartening. Especially, to be in that title picture and to be one win away and to not go out there and make a statement by either woman, I'd say. Sure, Fior beat a big name. Blanchfield came back against a former title challenger, right? So to me, it just makes perfect sense to have them fight each other. And then whoever wins, that's perfect. But especially, we have the title fight obviously next week. So, who knows how that's going to go. It could be a war. So they, the champ could have some time off of there. You never know. So in the meantime, I think you need to make that number one contender fight between Fior and Blanchfield. And that division's looking up. And there's some good young contenders there.
I like that. Absolutely. A lot of talent in that division. Moving on to the third to last fight of this card, Benoit Saint Denis, dominant win over Thiago Moises. A lot of nut kicks in this fight. A couple of them in round one. Would have been shocked if they took a point from Saint Denis, but it didn't matter in the end. Gets that round 2 TKO. I mean, he just looked dominant in the same way he looked dominant against Ismail Bonfim. He's looking good, man. I think top 15 fight for sure in his next fight.
No doubt. And put him on every France card.
Yeah.
Because they get hyped for some what's the nickname? God of War or something like that?
Yeah. Hell of a nickname. That's on the level of like Yoel Romero's nickname, Soldier of God. I mean, that's just cool.
And it's a deserved nickname because Saint Denis goes there every fight and it's a bloody mess. Yeah. And I mean, he throws heavy. He throws with intent to kill in every shot. And I mean, there was no change up last Saturday. I mean, it was, we talked about the grappling in this fight could be a factor. It was not. I mean, it was just a stand, and you kind of expect that between two grapplers at times.
Cancels out.
Right, cancels out. It turns, but he got him to the ground and he didn't go for submissions. He bashed his head into the mat. Got the TKO. Wonderful performance. Valid nickname.
Yeah, he definitely lives up to that. I'm excited for Saint Denis. He looks like great prospect coming off 2 very, very good wins. I'm excited. I'm excited for the future.
He's a young guy too. I mean, he's what was he, 26, 27 or something? So very bright future, no doubt.
Yeah. France, another up and comer, another possibly, guy who's going to be fighting for the belt maybe in the future. Who knows? I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but he looks really good.
Tough weight class, but
Yeah, lightweight stag. Moving on. Yeah, definitely. Volkan Ozdemir, dominant performance against Bogdan Guskov. Why this fight happened, I know Ozdemir, not the best. I know he's top 10 at light heavyweight, but a very weak division. Ozdemir is not very good, but a guy in Guskov debuting, he had no business being out there. Ozdemir dominated him.
I mean, Ozdemir, a former title challenger,
Yeah.
I know he's coming off some losses and some bad performances. But what's this guy's name? This Voldemort looking guy.
Yeah. Looks like Anthony Smith.
Looks like Anthony Smith, Russian Anthony Smith.
Yeah, no
tattoos. But like you mentioned, he had no business being in there.
Yeah,
Ozdemir, the more experienced guy, no doubt, especially in the UFC. Big crowd like that, he's going to go out there and take care of business, and he did. So good for him. He needed to win badly. I don't know where he goes from here because he's, even before this, like I mentioned, he's coming off some bad losses. So it's going to be tough to ever get back to that top 5. But, put him on some European cards and have some fun fights, I guess. Why not?
Yeah, I'm with that. Another fight on this card, William Gomez beats Yanis Gamori by TKO. Such a weird ending to this fight. I was upset seeing this, even though Gomez was gonna win this fight. I mean, he was up on points. He was clearly gonna take this to a decision victory. But a kick to the cup, and then Gamori, he turned away, started to walk back to his corner because he got kicked on the cup. I know it wasn't like a straight shot to the nuts or anything, but he got kicked on the cup. He was trying to, get a break as he should have. And the ref comes over. I know the ref was telling him to keep back to fighting, but he got kicked in the nut or got kicked in the cup. It was a below the belt shot. And then the ref waves it off, gives a TKO win to Gomez. It's very, very confusing ending. Kind of left a sour taste in my mouth for this whole fight.
Because it sucks for Gomis, because like you mentioned, he was gonna fly away with this fight. He was gonna win. Might have gotten a finish. So, but in the year 2023, with all the camera angles we have around this octagon, and you're telling me the ref calls off this fight without ever going back to the footage and seeing if a nut shot landed. You could even go back to the footage because sure, the fighter was like turning away. So if it was a body shot, sure, you can go back and call us a TKO. But to not even look at the replay, to see if it was illegal or not, even if it's legal, sure, it's a body kick TKO, then you can call it. But if it's a nut shot, give the guy his rightful time to keep fighting. I mean, it's not. It made no sense. It was dumb, stupid ref. Never ref again.
Yeah, I hope he's not reffing on a UFC card again. That was embarrassing. One of the strangest stoppages I've ever seen as a fan of the sport.
Just in the year 2023, to not go and look at every angle we have possible.
And it didn't even take multiple looks at multiple angles. I mean, you see that one, aerial view angle where they're looking down at him, and you can see that it landed on the cup very clearly. So such a terrible stoppage by the ref. Never ref a UFC fight again, please.
Please.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I mean, good performance by Gomez, and it sucks that this was kind of taken away from him in a sense. This was what was remembered about this fight, but it's hard to look at anything else about it. Left a really sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Morgan Charrier knockout win against Manolo Zucchini in round 1. Good performance. It kind of gave him a layup for his debut, especially in front of that Paris crowd. But still, great knockout. Looked good out there, and a good tone setter to kick off the main card in front of that Paris crowd.
We always say on this channel whenever we have like a home country kind of setting up a nice knockout for the crowd to get in it for their fighters, and it happened. It delivered. So love to see it. Love to see it.
Absolutely, good performance by Charrier. Not much else to say about that one. I don't know. You got anything?
No.
Okay. Some fight night announcements that were just announced actually earlier today. Sadiq Youssef versus Edson Barboza was announced for the main event of the October 14th fight night, and just right before we started filming, Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green announced as the main event for the October 7th fight night. Really shitty matchup for Bobby Green there. He's gonna get wrestled, probably subbed by Dawson. Just a really unfavorable matchup. Like you mentioned over text when we talk about it, probably gonna get a bag for it to show up. But just terrible matchup for him.
Nobody wants to fight Dawson, so I guess Bobby Green, the gangster he is gonna step up and take it. But this shouldn't be a main event.
No, God no.
God no. I mean, maybe on a pay-per-view. It seems more like a co-main on a fight night to me.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming these fight nights that you just mentioned are in the Apex, and so they just need some filler. They're not gonna take these guys to like some nice little arena and try and sell it as a main event. It's gonna be some garbage Apex fight nights. And I'm going to be watching college football because I don't care about them. But I guess I'll have to pretend to care when we review it.
I'll be tuned in just because my team sucks. I'm a Florida fan, so
I'll have it on my phone. I'll have it on my phone on the side. So
fair enough. Tough matchup for Bobby Green. I see Grant Dawson pretty quickly sinking into submission, getting out of there with a win in his first ever main event in his career.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it seems like nobody wants to fight the guy. He's an American Dagestani wrestler type. Nobody wants to fight somebody like that. So, he should win this, no doubt.
Yeah. The October 14th main event, Sadiq Youssef versus Edson Barboza. Should be a fun fight. Anytime we get a fight for Edson Barboza, especially a 5-round fight, it will be fun to watch. I'll be tuned into that one for sure. Anytime Edson Barboza is fighting, it's worth watching. Coming off a big win against Billy Quarantillo. Nasty knee knockout from him, and then Sadiq Youssef, one of the guys. He's contender at featherweight. I know you're not a huge fan of him, but still, one of the guys in the rankings. So if Edson Barboza can win this fight, that'll be a couple back-to-back really strong wins.
It's not even that I'm big on Yusuf. It's just I saw him get outworked by Arnold Allen a couple fights ago, and
it doesn't look like he's going to be one of the top guys at that fight.
And Arnold Allen goes and loses to Max pretty convincingly, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like Sadiq Yusuf is going to be challenging at the top of this division, which this division desperately needs. So
yeah,
I don't understand.
Edson Barboza title run, maybe. Maybe
what is it? Edson Barboza title
run?
That'd be wild. Didn't Giga sleep him pretty bad? So that kind of I don't know, man.
It ain't gonna happen, but it's funny to think about.
This shouldn't be a main event. Because what purpose does it serve in being a main event? Because on a fight night main event, you usually want it to be like, all right, this guy's like 1-2 fights away from getting a title shot.
Yeah.
These 2 fight nights, these guys are nowhere close.
No.
So I don't get it. Like I mentioned, Apex fight nights just fucking try and keep us entertained and put on good. It's gonna be a good fight. I mean, the kicks in this fight are gonna be wild.
Absolutely.
So
not much stakes, nothing on the line.
No stakes, right? That's the problem with this, and why it should be like a co-main on a fight night rather than a main event. Yeah. But fun fight, I'm ready for it, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, it's in the Apex, couple weeks of that just to get us through until we reach the October 21st pay-per-view. Islam Makhachev defends his title against Charles Oliveira in the rematch. I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, don't want to look too far ahead though. Still got a lot of episodes in between our coverage of that. So we'll leave on that note. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. If you watched this far, we really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Sean Strickland, knock out that dog fucker.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.